Well, I am going to start this meeting, the meeting of the legislative committee at 12:10. And I would like to, under the authority of county board rules, I appoint members Guston and member Deacon Garcia to serve as a temporary member of this committee to establish a quorum because member Galassi has to leave early. So now I'd like a roll call. We don't have secretary.
I'll take it.
Okay, take the
Chair
roll.
to start. Here. Vice Chair Childress.
Here.
Member Glassy.
Here.
Member Guston.
Here.
Member Deacon Garcia. Here.
And
All
one more
present.
request, and anything from Zay?
Nope.
Okay, all right, thank you so much for taking the roll. I move to approve the minutes, 23-1862, the legislative minutes, regular meeting, Tuesday, April 25th, 2023. We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Okay, great. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, thank you. Chair's remarks, I'd like to get right to our special guest, our lobbyist, Mark Polis, to talk about, well, I thought when we scheduled this, right, Cheryl, we were going to talk about the end of the session,
Yeah.
where the soft closure of the session was Friday, May 19th, but they didn't come together on a budget for fiscal year 2024, which starts July 1st. So it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but all the legislature is going back to Springfield on Wednesday to try to hammer out a budget before June 1st.
That is it. You got it.
Thank you, Mark.
No, thanks for having me today. You got it right. We're headed back to Springfield Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. The Senate is scheduled to be on Wednesday and Thursday. The House is scheduled to be in Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. That's not to say that we will wrap things up this week. The constitutional deadline is May 31st. So, COVID had kind of changed things a bit, right? We had always gone to the wee hours of the night on May 31st. And then with COVID, we had kind of sort of adjourned early. So they made an attempt this year to adjourn early. That didn't happen. So we're going back this week. Hopefully we can wrap it up. If not, I anticipate right after Memorial Day coming back for a day or two and wrapping things up. The reality of it is with super majorities, the constitutional requirement is that you need a simple majority to pass anything before June 1st. So anything after June 1st, right? It's not to say that even if they went past June 1st or May 31st, that they couldn't get things done, right? They've got 78 Democrats in the House. They've got 40 Democrats in the Senate. So plenty to get things done on just the Democratic side of things. So, but we are all hopeful that we can reach agreement this week. So I'll give you kind of sort of a general update of where we're at. We're into when we left late on last Friday, the Senate was focused on only passing House bills in the Senate with amendments that had to go back to the House on concurrence. The House was a little bit more in disarray. They were passing not only Senate bills in the House that had to go back to the Senate on concurrence, but they were also passing third reading bills in the House that had to be sent over to the Senate to still be voted on. So in any event, I anticipate things being a little more streamlined this week. They are going to focus on a budget. You may have read by now that, there are some holes in the budget. We got about we went from several million to now about $1 billion program for medical for immigrants in this state. There's a number of other issues. You've seen that COGFA and others, unlike the last 4 years, we had receipts that were down for the month of April quite dramatically. And then a lot of talk about, recessions and other things going on in this country as well. So all those things are pressures. Obviously, you've got a Latino caucus that is very focused on making sure that the migrants and immigrants here still have health care and actually expand that. You've got more of the moderate caucus that has a lot of needs, and that is not at the top of their agenda. So a lot of push and pull in Springfield, but as usual, I'm confident that we can get to a final budget deal. Anybody have any questions about that kind of general update? And then I'll talk about some specific bills.
Okay, I'm going to ask specifically about that. I'm looking for my legislative update that I just read at County Board about how the undocumented immigrants, the projected cost of the healthcare program is $1 billion, with a B. How
With a
can
B.
the state of Illinois ever come up with that kind of money? Are we going to be looking for federal dollars to help us cover those healthcare costs?
Well, it's state dollars at this point, and that is the looming question in Springfield. When this started, I forget what the number was, but let's just call it 5 million. That was the projected cost of this, and somehow 5 million, or I don't remember, it was 5 million or 25 million. This ballooned into $1 billion problem. There's a lot of other states that do have this type of coverage, but most states the coverage is I think it's 65 years old or older is the cover that's provided. So if it's anybody younger than that, but the $1 billion number is also based on this expansion that people some people in the legislature want. So that's just one hole in the budget. As people that have been around long enough know, we will find a way in Springfield to adjourn and find money that is needed for that, as well as a number of other things. I mean, we're now topping somewhere around $50 billion. 20 years ago when I started, the state budget was around 34 billion. The revenues are up. Population exodus is not nearly what people thought with the final numbers of that came in and that. So we will find the money, but it remains to be seen whether that program gets fully funded or not.
Okay, thanks, Mark. I'm going to ask my members, because some people have to leave early. If you
Sure.
have any questions, please, anybody with questions? A member, Deacon.
I had a question on, the insulin bill that I believe got passed and is going to the governor's desk. Has that been signed or?
Let's see. Do you, anybody recall the number of that? I've got a number of these here.
2189 regarding prescription availability, specifically the insulin cap at $35 a month. So that's
21. Yeah, that did pay. I was going to give you, these were DuPage County bills that you guys had an interest in, and yes, that one passed, going to the governor. House Bill 3230 passed. That was statewide continuum of behavioral health crisis response services. Passed both chambers, headed to the governor. There was House Bill 3236 prohibited the installment loans of pet sales. That also passed both houses, headed to the governor. House Bill 3940, extension of the Emergency Telephone Systems Act, that passed both houses, going to the governor. Senate Bill 724 established the Interagency Children's Behavioral Health Services Act. That also passed both houses, headed to the governor. You had the Paint Stewardship Act, Senate Bill 836, also passed both houses, headed to the governor. Senate Bill 1499, this was the Companion Animal Forfeiture Act with enhanced penalties. That also passed both houses, going to the governor. And then finally, you had Senate Bill 1555, which was the Packaging and Paper Products Stewardship Act. That also passed both houses. There were only a couple. Let's see, you had one on a Central Receiving Center grant pilot program, 2811, that has not moved. You had 3878, which was a IDHA matching funds. That did not pass, so I presume that is not going to move this session. There was a Carpet Stewardship Act, did not pass. Firearm storage bill, Senator Elliman has not moved. Aside from that, all the other bills that you guys were advocating for have passed. And then in terms of priorities, restoring LGDF, that was a priority. We're hearing now that the likelihood is like, let me take a look here. The last I heard on this one was we're looking at somewhere around a $50 million increase in LGDF. So, kind of sort of, I would call it nominal at best, but nevertheless moving in the right direction, right? We got a positive movement last year. We've got another positive movement this year. I know you guys were looking for funding for the Central Receiving Center. Basically, it's an alternate to the emergency rooms and folks spending any time in jail for mental health and substance abuse issues. That is, a request that's in for the final budget. We'll see this week if it makes it. And then there was also, you had two other requests in there. One was, I think these were for tourism. One was a $5 million grant, and the other one was extending another year the 25% local match. Those two also, those requests are in. And then there's a couple others that we put in the budget. We'll see if they make it by Friday, but we keep following along, waiting for the final approach bill to come out. But we had 150,000 for an Emerald Bridge lift station. We had 75,000 for a Glen Ellen Heights water main rehab project, 100,000 for a Royce water main rehabilitation, and 350,000 for a sanitary sewer collection system rehab. So we're tracking all those this week, hoping to see the budget implementation bill and the approach bill come out, and then we can track to see if any of those are in, the final budget this week. So that kind of rounds out where we're at.
Appreciate that, Mark. Some of the commonplace gun laws that we've been advocating for here in DuPage County, something that wasn't on my agenda, and I wanted to pick your brain about this. It's HB 218. This again was not on my radar at all, but it sounds interesting. It's the Firearm Industry Responsibility Act, where it would allow private citizens, the Attorney General, counties to sue firearm industry members, holding gun manufacturers accountable for death. So I saw that it passed in the House and was
Passed to both.
What's going on with that?
Headed to the governor.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
Wow. That's incredible. How does that work? What is in the legislation?
Interesting. How does it work? It's that's going to be challenged, obviously, like many of these other gun laws. Whether or not it's going to pass constitutional muster is a whole nother question. But, nevertheless, in Illinois and many other states, it's not about whether we can pass constitutional muster. It's whether or not we've got the political will to pass these types of pieces of legislation. So at this point, we'll see. I assume the governor is going to sign that bill. I haven't heard otherwise. And then, stay tuned for a temporary restraining order to be filed, and then obviously into court. One interesting thing, there's another bill that's not tied to this, but directly is affected by this bill, or I should say this bill would be directly affected by the other bill. I forget the bill number, but it is on choice of venue. So you might remember when we had a bunch of these COVID cases around the state, the Attorney General's office is like chasing these things down in all kinds of different counties. When the Safety Act passed, we had a number of suits filed around the state. This is basically saying that in order to choose your venue, you will be limited to Cook or Sangamon County. So, those two kind of sort of seats for the state of filing your cases. So if this, once this bill is signed by the governor, if somebody wants to challenge it, they will only be limited to Sangamon County and Cook County. Now, the venue bill as well is likely to be challenged as well. I think that has a good likelihood of being of withstanding a challenge. Right now, there are a number of statutes in Illinois where when the state of, like the Illinois Labor Relations Act, for example, you can only bring suit in Sangamon or Chicago against the state, or I should say Cook County or Sangamon County. And that's been upheld. So, this is basically just saying if there's a constitutional challenge, because anytime there's a constitutional challenge, there has to be state action in order for it to be successful. So that means the state's, affected. So we'll see if that holds up too. But that did pass both chambers as well.
Okay, Mark, member Yini, you has a question.
Oh, thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
So I also heard about House Bill 676, and gun safety advocates were pushing hard on the passage of this one as well. Do you happen to have a status on HB 676, which had to do with closing the domestic firearm loophole, creating a task force on firearm insurance, among other things?
Yeah, so that has not passed yet. So it is through the House. It's through the House. It's had a first reading in the Senate, but that's it. So, and it has not had an extension on that bill either. So, which would suggest that at least at this point, unless it's attached to another bill, probably not moving this session. But it's all the way through the House. The House roll call was like 70 to 36 on that bill. So it passed. With 60 is the minimum. So it passed with plenty of votes. So, this may be taken up again in veto session, as it stands. But for right now, probably unlikely to move this session.
Okay, thank you.
Paula, did you get your question answered about the $35 per month cap on? Okay, great. Gosh, I just wrote down a whole bunch of questions. I know the House approved a package of legislation on reproductive health. Can you elaborate on any of that?
I would say we tracked that, not that closely. I mean, knowing that it was all passing. I don't remember all that was in it, but I can take a look at all those bills.
Okay, and then I'll also, Mark, other questions from my committee? Okay, you said that, the storage, the Ethan's law, Senator Ellman's, law didn't move at all. Can you tell us why or what we can do to move that forward? Or is that something we should embrace for the fall session?
Yeah, so
Forward.
these are, so we're in the 103rd General Assembly, right? It's a 2-year process. We're only in literally, the first, the spring session, round 1 of 2 years of sessions, and really 5 sessions. So you've got spring session and then veto, and then again spring and veto, and then a lame duck, right? So you really have kind of sort of 5 bites at the apple here. So I would suggest that she'll continue to work on that bill and any kind of problems she had with it. And I also assume, just because they had this venue bill as well as this other bill on being able to sue firearm manufacturers, and that there's only so much they can bite off and chew. So I anticipate that that's a conversation that continues.
Thank you so much for your time. Other questions, last chance?
Just so you guys know, thank you, Mark, all the bills that you all talked about was in Chip's
Right. Yep.
13-page. I just emailed all of you.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask. Can we get this email?
I just sent it. I couldn't send it from my
Hey,
phone.
Mark, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you for your time. None of the other committee members have questions. Would you give me a call about something else later today?
Sure can.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Have a great day.
You too. All right, so that was great. I love hearing from our lobbyists so
He
much.
actually reads my emails. He's a great guy.
I have known Mark for decades, and I probably shouldn't say this, but back in, my daughter's 20, but back maybe 8-10 years ago, she had a crush on his son. So we're like family friends. And now it's out there in for forever. Anyway, okay, great discussion. Thank you so much for being involved. Do we have any old business? Any new business? Okay, without objection.
And we'll do a comprehensive
We
intersection
are
report. Yeah.
adjourned. Thank you so much for doing the comprehensive.
Sure.